All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you, Kim. As Kim said, I'm Joanie Barnard with the Office of Responsible Research. I usually like to start by giving a little bit of context as far as my office and the university and the IRBs and what that kind of means. So we have our office, and what our office basically does is we support all of the work that is done in order for your research to be approved by an institutional review board. So we are not the actual board that does the approvals, but we do the support work for that. From an institutional perspective, I think it's important that you understand that basically Ohio State has what's called an FWA, and that stands for a federal-wide assurance. And it's literally a number that is registered with the federal government that says that because we take federal funds from the government, that we will abide by the human subjects regulations. So that is kind of the big picture there as far as why we have to do this. So when you do research at Ohio State, whether you're faculty or staff or a student, you're doing that research under the umbrella of Ohio State University. So that gives a little bit of context though. And then we say, well then who is the IRB if you're not the IRB? Well, the institutional review boards, there's 3 of them here. There's 2 in the medical world, cancer and biomedical, and then there's also the social and behavioral sciences. And basically, for all practical purposes, faculty serve on those boards and actually review the research and make the decisions regarding approval or changes that need to be made or that type of thing. So that gives a little bit of the context, which I tend to find that no matter who I speak to, people don't quite understand that relationship, okay? I think that it's important just to say, well, okay, so as far as getting approval to do research in schools, do you have to go through an IRB for all of that? And really the answer, again, lies with the federal regulations. And the answer to that is if your research is defined as human subjects research by the federal regulations, then you need IRB approval, okay? And pretty much human subjects research says, number 1, that it's a live human being, literally, that you are interacting with that person in some way to gather data through some type of intervention or interaction, and that you're doing a systematic investigation, okay? So that's a very important distinction. So what do we mean by that? Well, if you're looking at the literature, developing a research question, developing hypotheses, you're going to collect data, you're going to analyze it, you're going to hope to contribute to generalizable knowledge, you're going to hope to publish, you are doing systematic research. If you want to give your students a survey to see how they like your class, and you're just going to go back and report that to the principal for internal results only, that's not a systematic investigation. So the answer really is that if you're doing the research with human subjects for the purpose of research, then you do need IRB approval, okay? The other thing I want to mention is just kind of with timelines and that there's different levels of review. And one of those is exempt review, which basically you still have to submit to our office, but a person in our office can decide that the research is actually exempt from needing IRB approval. And typically that can be for normal educational practices, which is probably one of the most confusing terms that we have. And I'm seeing several of you smiling at me right now, and I know why. So, you know, normal means you're already doing it in the classroom, already exists. If you're bringing in a new intervention, remember back to that definition, if you're bringing in a new intervention to research in the classroom, it's human subjects research and it needs IRB approval. So in that way, it couldn't, you certainly can still do it. It's just not exempt. It would go in our middle category, which is expedited review. That's actually reviewed by one board member. And then at the other end of the spectrum is a full board review that has to go to a convened board meeting. And it's kind of determined, not necessarily riskier, but probably a topic that's sensitive and possibly involves a vulnerable population. So we really just want more eyes looking at that protocol. So there's 3 levels of review, and our office can certainly help you, with which level that, you should actually look at in your submission. So we don't want you to submit the wrong application. So I'm sure that there's probably lots of questions, I would be happy to take some of those or chat with you later. It's very important that you know that our office, we are here to help, and we're happy to make appointments. I also do office hours every Wednesdays in the Pace building on 17th from 1 to 3. You can just pop in with your application. You can make one-on-one appointments. That isn't a problem. And, we're happy to, certainly, to answer any questions.